Welcome to the Zinnov Podcast, Decoding Private Equity series, where we bring to you in-depth conversations with practitioners and leaders on the hottest PE deals, their investment theses, and a lowdown on industries where all the action is.
Welcome everyone to the new episode of Zinnov Podcast, Decoding Private Equity series. I'm your host for today's session, Amita Goyal, partner at Zinnov. In this series, we take a closer look at the private equities and the companies owned by private equity firms. We explore their strategies, the challenges they face, and how technology plays a key role in driving their growth and resilience. Today, we are speaking to Fritz Hesse, the Chief Technology Officer at Riskonnect, a leading integrated risk management software solution provider. Fritz has been instrumental in accelerating Riskonnect's IRAM solution and technology platform, enabling customers to easily bring all aspects of risk under one roof. With more than 25 years of experience leading and scaling highly successful and world-class software organizations across different enterprises and consumer markets, Fritz works to accelerate Riskonnect's technology innovation across the globe. Welcome, Fritz. We are thrilled to have you here.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much. Great, let's get started. So, we have certain questions for you, Fritz, and we'd love to hear through your experience what's your perspective, what's your point of view. Could you talk a little bit about your experience? You've served as a CTO in the past for Bazaarvoice and now at Riskonnect. Both these companies were private equity owned companies. What are the commonalities and what are the differences you see?
Sounds great. Well, from a high level, my experience includes, as you already mentioned, 30 or so years developing software, leading software engineering teams in both small companies and larger companies, including some that are probably well known to this group, JD Edwards, which is now Oracle, and a number of other public and private companies. Also worked in the ERP space, fintech, consumer applications, e-commerce at Bazaarvoice, and now risk management, risk solutions. Most of the companies I worked with have been global companies, lots of M&A activities involved under private equity, and it's been an important part of the process. Bazaarvoice, as you mentioned, is a global leader in what is called user-generated content for e-commerce. Things like ratings and reviews and questions and answers on products purchased in the e-commerce space. Riskonnect is a global leader in integrated risk management solutions. That includes things like health and safety and risk management information systems, ESG, business continuity, project management, and enterprise risk. A ton of capabilities all amount around integrated risk management. Both of these companies have somewhere around 1,500 employees. Both have global enterprise customers, teams in the US, EMEA, and India. Both are software as a service solutions with enterprise customers delivered in an agile practice. Both of them have a high appetite for mergers and acquisitions and the use of AI and machine learning in the solution suite. As mentioned, both are private equity owned. And under private equity, it's important to recognize that the goal is around the rule of 40. Optimize your spend, drive ARR, and drive for profitability. Under PE, you can make investments, but they need to create value in the holding period. So it's key to consider what the holding period is when you do make those investments. So for me, as my role as a CTO, both of these are software as a service companies, software as a service solution companies, but Riskonnect also has on-premise installations. Bazaarvoice is a B2B2C technology company that has consumers at the end as well using the solution. So there's high volume and scale. Riskonnect is more B2B. Users are legal, compliance, and risk officers. The technology provided there is around data analytics and reporting. And Riskonnect also has multiple product lines, but they're built upon different technology stacks that have come via acquisition. So half of my job today is running release activities, OKRs, and metrics, and the other half is around our key integration strategy. Hopefully that provides a good summary of the role and the difference between the companies.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Fritz. And I think both, all those SaaS platforms do seem to have a unique character for which, and you need to kind of have a strategy for each of these separately in that sense. Could you share some specific examples of how you've effectively leveraged global talent across these companies? What are your unique perspectives or capabilities that a diverse talent pool provide, and how have you been able to drive value for business through the global team?
Well, I think it's important that diversity is a key component of this conversation. Diversity of ideas and information about customers' want, as well as diversity of ideas on how to achieve those goals. So when you think about e-commerce, for example, in the United States versus EMEA versus Asia, e-commerce is very different in those different areas. And so different points of view on what's important, consumer buying patterns vary, and the metrics and monetization of how you make those products work changes. So we needed product leaders who could be sensitive to those differences and help design solutions that are catered using those various solutions and situations. All the best ideas don't come from one person or one geography or one educational background. I don't think anyone can dispute the need for diversity as it generates value and how it can generate value for our customers. So maybe a couple examples to help drive this. In one environment, access to innovation labs of universities or the innovation centers for our partners and customers is important. One company in my past, we had an entire team that was formed out of a university research. We were able to build a center of excellence around identity verification using our artificial intelligence, and that was in Europe. At another company, we had several large customers that also had their development centers in Asia nearby where we were establishing our development center. So having the development centers nearby allowed us to build a stronger partnership with those customers, shared goals, rapid prototypes, and customer support were all there so we could rapidly solve challenges that may have come up. We didn't have to wait for items to come to the US, for example, to be resolved. A third area might be around the clock responsiveness and deployment. Customers, especially in the e-commerce space, are shopping 24 hours a day. So your systems need to be highly available and highly responsive to issues that may come up. So having the ability to have your development, your tests, your DevOps, your SecOps, your product and support makes all the difference for time to solve challenges and time to restore. We're no longer waiting for someone from the US to sacrifice themselves overnight, or somebody in Europe that has to be up overnight to solve these things, because we can solve it locally. And you can use, in this case, a follow the sun model. We've been able to do that where you can leverage 3 key geographic areas to maintain the support compliance with your customers. And finally, velocity of innovation. And I know we'll talk about that more, but private equity has a certain blueprint that you would think about for the R&D cost as a percentage of revenue. Holding to those targets creates a compelling challenge for how do you manage to achieve those cost targets but still drive for innovation. One of the companies I was at was facing high costs, high turnover, and a slow time to fill the roles that we had in the US. Ultimately, this caused us a challenge to our ability to have the capacity we needed and the rapid time to deliver new capabilities. So by following a strategy for hiring a global center in India, we were able to provide higher loyalty, more ownership. The team was open to experimentation. They provided skills that were difficult to obtain in the cities that we were in the US, and certainly cost advantages. Ultimately, that combination provided the capability that we needed, the skills, the commitment to drive a faster pace of innovation, and we were able to double our innovation capacity within 1 year. So it makes a strong difference.
Absolutely, Fritz. I think that's fantastic. As you correctly put, diversity of thoughts is through diverse teams, global teams, and you're not bound by a particular time zone to service your customers. And you can actually meet the time pressure targets in a private equity environment to build innovation capacity. So that, thank you so much for that. How has having a global team, or in some countries like India, they call it a captive model, in other countries, they call it offshoring, how has it helped optimize your vendor management and external partnerships for your portfolio companies? What advantage does having an in house team or a GCC provide in terms of sourcing, negotiating, and managing these vendor relationships?
Sure. Well, staffing teams with a higher percentage of full-time employees, in my opinion, allows us to reduce the number of contingent staffing firms we need to work with and aligns our team around the goals, the business goals. They are business owners, or they are owners of the responsibility of the business, as opposed to just being service technicians. So through global centers, specifically captive centers that are employee based, you have a better control over your cost. your quality of skills, the IT usage that you have in your environment, you can control that in a better way. You also generally have better control on things like staff attrition and protection from risk due to a situation where vendors may just inflate or rapidly change the rate cards. So when you have employees, you can drive ownership, you can drive cost, you can drive access to data in a clearer way, and it's easier to manage than if you have a ton of third-party vendors that are supporting you.
Wonderful. Thanks a lot, Fritz. So as these global centers or global teams have evolved beyond R&D, what new value streams are they unlocking? For instance, in sales, in support, in business operations, have you seen something? How is this expanded scope and integration impacting the core business and driving the strategic advantage from global locations?
Well, everybody has their own journey in this evolution, of course. In some companies, it goes quickly, and some it goes a little bit more slowly, and you have to take some ups and downs and sideways paths. The Zinnov team has been a key partner for me in the past, and I'm sure for others can provide data points around the typical evolution and metrics that you may see to evolve as you go from just having, for example, a satellite office to really driving transformation across the business or industry. There are some tells that I would look for in certain environments that you would expect to see change over this evolution. You would expect to have more departments asking for setting up teams outside of your headquarters. That would be an indication that people are interested, the business is supporting, and that there's an interest in really expanding the charter from being just a development site or just a service center to being multifaceted, multifunctional. Growth in geography or market specific segments where you have your people. So that is that you might see more sales or more customers asking or additional market offerings that are outside of your typical core market. You'll start to see the charter of your development center become a charter of a transformation center. And then finally, brand recognition is a key. So when you have brand recognition, it makes it easier to open doors, to attract talent, to attract partner conversations and create visibility to these additional market opportunities that I just mentioned. They become now visible opportunities instead of hidden opportunities. So brand recognition really allows you to drive those conversations and to expand. We've found these gains successfully in Asia as well as other geographies and been very successful at growing from being just a development site to being a transformation center.
That's wonderful. More than 90% of global companies in India are already multifunctional. So that is fantastic to hear. And what are some of the key challenges you've faced in building and operating these global teams? The challenges vary, of course, all the way from cultural integration to IP, etc. What has been your experience, Fritz? What are the challenges you've seen?
Well, risk is part of our DNA. And so I do appreciate the question. We always are looking for the risk and what you can do to mitigate risk or manage through it. Some of the key challenges, as you've already mentioned, include things like access to data or environments. Not every customer is going to allow you to have people see their data, whether it's in EMEA or Asia or Latin America. You need to manage for that. So that's a key thing, is who has access to the data and who has access to the environments that are running. You have to manage that. Secondly, hiring practices that differ by country. What works in Eastern Europe and what works in Western Europe or Asia, in specific countries within Asia or Latin America, it is all different. And so you need to hire experts that can help you navigate those specific challenges and how do you address them. And then third, cultural and communication differences. It requires patience, it requires training, it requires respect for different points of view and different cultural norms. Again, expertise that can help you navigate that is really important. So what we've done in my past, certainly have hired firms like Zinnov to help facilitate and guide the practices that we use and the evolution of the maturity of our environment through those challenges. You can't solve it all on day one, but you need a journey and you want to map your journey with experts that can help you through that. Face-to-face time is critical. I know we're all living in a remote world these days, but really nothing beats face-to-face time for collaboration. And so bi-directional travel where possible, but certainly visiting teams, having workshops, setting up charters and goals together and thinking through the risks and the mitigations together, laying that out is really important. So face-to-face time. I think another one that's key is really local product ownership and HR support. You can only go so fast as the ability to make decisions. If your product management team is 15 hours away, then you're going to be waiting 15 hours for decisions. So you need the ability to really arm your teams locally with the ability to make decisions and to drive innovation, to experiment and to practice and to be sensitive to the HR norms in that environment. And so it's really critical, I think, to have local product ownership, local tech ops or development support for your teams to remove the impediments, and HR support locally that can be sensitive to the team cultures. I think it's important to have clear mission control, clear autonomy for the teams that are working on their deliverables to reduce global dependencies. As I mentioned before, you don't want to have a lot of overnight responsibilities where one team is waiting on another one in another country to respond to a question and to deliver, because then your ability to deliver will slow down at the pace of these conversations. So clear autonomy is really critical. Give them a goal, have them work on those objectives instead of giving them tasks, I think is really important. I think there's maybe just a couple others, recurring strategy alignment mechanisms. So having your, whether it's quarterly practices for aligning your strategy is key. Clear charters, goals, and metrics. We've used a lot of communication coaching, training on how you communicate, because again, conversational language is different across countries. And so we need to make sure we can communicate, and it's important to train that. And then we've done some things like cross geography hackathons, where you can bring team members that don't normally work together on a hackathon and do virtual hackathons, but across geographies. So those are some of the tricks we've used.
Thank you, Fritz. That's fantastic. So I think in spite of having a global team, to make the team feel it's a one team, so creating those opportunities and giving them the autonomy to leverage their potential to the fullest while training them so they can culturally integrate. I think that's really fabulous. I can clearly see you've done this so many times. So I'm learning a lot from you here. Thank you so much. This has been really fantastic conversation. I'm very thankful. Zinnov is very thankful for your perspectives. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Enjoyed the chat. I appreciate watching the podcast, and I will learn from you as well as we continue to go down this journey.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, everyone, for tuning into this episode. We will be back soon with another leader and another exciting topic. Till then, take care, and we'll see you next time. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you for listening to the Zinnov Podcast Decoding Private Equity series. We hope you enjoyed listening in and found the information shared here useful. You can listen to the other episodes of this podcast series on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts from. Or just visit our website, www.zinnov.com, or drop us a note at info@zinnov.com to know more.